This is going to be probably one of the most impromptu videos I've ever done. So you're going to have to forgive me if the sound's not perfect or if there's pauses or stutters. I'm doing this off the cuff because of this post, John's post in the forum. And so many things were brought up, I realized that to answer all of them, I would need a flow chart and about 4 pages of typing. And all of y'all will go to sleep before I get done with all that. So let's just try to break this down really quick. How does Deborah Fisher think she's going to provide broadband and fiber optics in the city? We all know Comcast is already overbuilding. WOW in the city. CCB already has fiber down the main roads. Where in the city limits is broadband not available? Hint, nowhere. This seems like an outright lie. The city is not and should never be in the business of internet access. After seeing that, I don't even want to touch on the other campaign promises. Now, John is a frequent poster here in the forum. Like me, he has never been shy about giving his opinion. I'm going to tell you that when I speak on what I think that Deborah Fisher is proposing, I cannot verify that. I actually reached out to Councilwoman Fisher because she declined to join the forum and asked her some questions about this, but she has not answered me. Okay? So let's get started on this, all right? First of all, I believe that what she's talking about doing is targeting funding from the American Rescue Plan. That stemmed out of the infrastructure package that was passed in 2021. And in it, there was a large federal grant to be distributed to states to expand access to broadband and fiber optics. I believe what her plan is to bring some of that money here to Grovetown. Because despite Mr. Carson's vehement statement that there's nowhere in the city that's not available, I'm afraid he is mistaken. There are places in the city where that's not available, or there's places in the city where that's only available at a pretty high rate. Everybody seems to concentrate on all the new places that they're building. I live in one of the older sections of Grovetown, and most of us here in the lower income bracket are used to being the last ones to get everything. For example, how long has AT&T UVerse been around? It's been around since I moved here in 2009. They still haven't brought it back to us, and they never will. Also, with the advent of so many things going to the internet, going digital, for example, Georgia Power, if you'll remember, shut down all of their locations. You pay your bills, you do your things like that online, or you have to send it in through money sending services and pay a fee. Our own Grovetown Water Department set up an entire online payment method because, depending from what happened some years back, not wanting to take cash and things like that. The point is, everything in our society is geared towards internet access and interacting through the internet. And if you're going to make it such a necessity, then it's not that bad of an idea to make sure that everyone has it. Just because you don't have any problem getting internet and affording it does not mean that everybody can do that. Now, when he says the city doesn't need to be in the business of internet access, I beg to differ. What we're talking about is something called municipal broadband. And what that means is that a city provides or subsidizes citywide Wi-Fi. Okay? And this has been done in quite a few places, and it was a major success. There are many cities out there that have municipal broadband up and running that give you the speeds now that you're paying $80 to $90 to sometimes $120 for, and they can do it for $45 a month because they have the bargaining power of a city. Unfortunately, there are 17 states. I'll give you a guess as to which political party they belong to, who have actually enacted legislation to not allow that. Now, the state of Georgia has no prohibitions on municipal broadband per se. But what they have are some very severe restrictions on cable company competition. And as we all know, cable companies are where probably 90 to 95% of people get their internet. All right? So in Georgia, they prohibit municipalities from providing cable service unless the local franchising authority first gives incumbent providers notice of their alleged deficiencies and an opportunity to provide a corrective plan. If the plan is unacceptable, it must conduct an extensive independent feasibility analysis and require the municipal provider to prepare a business plan to provide service. The feasibility analysis must cover at least 11 specified subjects in detail, and the business plan must address at least 6 market-specific costs, subscriber, geographical, financial, and other topics in substantially greater detail than a private company would ever make public. If a municipal cable service provider can surmount all of that, it must then comply with multiple operating restrictions, including charging rates that are no lower than the incumbent provider's rates for similar services. Now, what that basically means in a nutshell is while they haven't put any caps on broadband, if you're going to provide broadband through as competition to the cable providers, then you have to do all that. And even if you pass all those hurdles, you can't provide the service at a cheaper price. Now, why do you think they would do something like that? Probably has something to do with the major cable companies giving them tons and tons of money, maybe, you think? And you know, for a red state, for the Republican position on no regulations on business, you know, capitalism, the free market, well, the backbone of the free market is supposed to be competition. Competition is so what's supposed to give good prices to you, right? Well, this is a recipe to keep that from happening. Yeah, might want to think about that. In any case, moving along from the broadband issue, the bus service. Now, it is arguable that Grovetown does not have the demand right as yet for a bus service. I don't believe that she meant that she was wanting to put a bus service just for Grovetown. Perhaps she was wanting to tie in with the other county, Richmond County, and bring the service on further out. As you well know, we are one of the fastest growing cities in Georgia. And as we expand, the need for this might become necessary. So it is not, completely ridiculous to think that she may want to do that. Okay? Pardon me. Now let's talk about the sidewalks. And we definitely need more 10-foot sidewalks that 4 people per day use. When they first put that big sidewalk in up there, that was kind of my opinion. Nobody ever uses that. I work for myself, and I go back and forth at odd hours. And I'm here to tell you, this past summer, there are plenty of kids using that sidewalk. There are plenty of people using that sidewalk. I drive around, and I see people using the sidewalk and jogging on the sidewalks all the time. Not to mention the fact that there is some grand plan that the downtown area, and that includes Robinson Avenue, is supposed to be a walkable city. Well, one of the things you must have for a walkable city are sidewalks to walk on. Now, I have seen plenty of children at school time walking back and forth in that same grass that Cherie and Rick are talking about. And they bring up a really good point here. What about people in wheelchairs? What about people with disabilities? You want to walk in the grass by that road? The way people drive? especially the people coming out of Fort Gordon, because our police don't seem to ever pull them over. I'm sorry if I offended somebody with that statement. Actually, no, I'm not, but I'll say I am. Yes, we do need sidewalks down there, especially if they intend to expand the businesses. And, you may or may not agree with that. I know that there's a trend nowadays to say, I don't want my tax dollars going for this. And my answer to that is tough shit. Tough shit. This idea that you must agree with every expenditure of your tax dollars is insane, because it was never part of the way America was set up. And I've got news for you. If you think it would be magical that all of a sudden you could veto things that your tax dollars are sent to that you don't agree with, if that happened with everybody, you'd be in a lot more trouble than you think you are, especially living in Georgia, living in pretty much any Republican state. Because here's something they don't talk about. Almost 20% of the Georgia budget comes from federal funding, federal tax money. Where does that come from? Those blue states y'all hate so much. They are the ones that pay more in taxes than they get back. Georgia takes. All right, so if they were able to decide, well, we don't want to send our money to those people in Georgia, they're rednecks and they're Republicans and they hate us, your taxes would increase probably about 20 to 30% overnight, because they sure aren't going to increase the taxes on the businesses. So, yeah, sometimes your tax money goes to stuff that you don't like. Welcome to America. Now, Eric Blair says that a large part of that SPLOST grant is for the sidewalks. Over $500,000 for just sidewalks. Yes. Yes. Because, man, they are high. They are high. If you're wondering why that is, I'm not going to go through another explanation like I did with the cable companies, but I suggest you do a little bit of research on what kind of regulations and restrictions the state has put on that, to make sure that only companies that charge you out the ass are going to get that money. Again, competition is supposed to be the backbone of the free market, but it's not as competitive as you would think. Okay? Has that pretty much covered it? Yeah, I think it has. In summation, I would like to say that I still have not forgotten about the comparison of the candidates. Some of you may or may not know, my wife and son were in an automobile accident. They were rear-ended. My wife was injured pretty badly. I have been dealing with that in the insurance company and trying to work, and I've had some health issues myself. So I have not been able to be as prompt as I want to be, but I will get to it. In the meantime, that's about the best I can do on this one, and I will see y'all on the next one.